There's a scene in Sex and the City in which Carrie Bradshaw is standing outside the Plaza Hotel, asking the man she has loved on and off for years a four-word question. Why wasn't it me? Don't rush past it. Carrie isn't only asking why Big married Natasha instead of her. She's asking something colder. What did Natasha's selection prove about her, and what did it prove about me? Big's choice had become a verdict, and Carrie believed only Big could reverse it. Big's uncertainty wounded Carrie, and made his eventual certainty feel more valuable than certainty should ever have to feel. Sex and the City built 6 seasons of romance around that exchange. Call it the proof loop. Big withholds clarity. Carrie interprets the distance. Big offers a small moment of access. Carrie reads the moment as evidence that something real actually exists underneath. Big withdraws again. The next opening becomes more valuable than the last one, precisely because it was harder to get. Watch for that shape. It repeats. The loop starts with access. Carrie learns that Big attends church with his mother every Sunday, and she goes there with Miranda, hoping this is finally the moment she gets introduced as something real. Big is visibly flustered when he spots her. This is, in his words, a private little thing between him and his mother, and he introduces her by name only. Mother, this is Carrie. Her own voiceover tells us how she's experiencing this. Getting on his mother's good side, she says, is like closing the deal. Big treats his privacy as a boundary. Carrie treats crossing it as progress. A season later, Big casually mentions he might move to Paris for months on business. Carrie asks what that means for them. He tells her he doesn't want her moving to Paris for him. She has her own life here. It sounds considerate. It also means Big made the decision without imagining Carrie inside of it. That's the original wound. Not cruelty, just exclusion, dressed up as consideration. Carrie can still tell herself after all that Big is simply afraid of commitment. Natasha is about to take that explanation away. Before Natasha, Big can't commit to anyone. That costs Carrie nothing. After Natasha, Big can commit. He just doesn't commit to her. Outside the plaza, Big finally gives Carrie something close to an answer. What he had with Natasha was easy. What he had with Carrie became hard. He doesn't call her too complicated. That word is hers, not his. She's the one who reaches for the way we were, casting herself as the complicated woman, and Natasha as the simple one who got the happy ending. Big describes friction. Carrie converts it into a verdict on her own identity. If Natasha is easy and Carrie is hard, then Carrie's complexity becomes 2 things at once. It's what makes her feel exceptional and what appears to have disqualified her. Deciding Big chose comfort over depth protects her pride. It also keeps Big permanently necessary to prove the story right. Natasha is where Carrie's search for answers stops being private. The affair briefly feels like a correction. Big may have chosen Natasha with his life, but he still can't leave Carrie behind, and for a moment that reads as confirmation that Carrie was the deeper choice all along. Then Natasha finds out. The fantasy ends the moment it stops being something only Carrie and Big are interpreting. Carrie had treated the affair as evidence about who Big really loved. Natasha is the one left living with what that evidence actually cost. If being chosen is really the answer Carrie needs, Aiden should solve that problem. But he doesn't. Aiden offers Carrie the certainty she spent years asking Big to provide. Once he refuses to take her back after the affair, that certainty exposes something else entirely. Even his forgiveness starts to feel like something she has to earn, carrying the same weight Big's attention always did. When he does take her back, everything shifts. He buys an engagement ring. Carrie finds it before he proposes, and her immediate reaction is nausea, not joy. He proposes again with a different ring. She says yes. But saying yes doesn't resolve what marriage actually asks of her. Aiden buys the apartment next door and starts knocking down the wall between their homes, and commitment stops being an abstract promise and becomes a concrete renovation of her own life. At a gala later, she isn't wearing the ring in her hand. It's on a chain around her neck, closer to my heart, she tells people. She's keeping the commitment near her, not on her. With Big, Carrie wanted proof that she could be chosen. With Aiden, she has to decide whether she wants the life that choosing actually creates. Their incompatibilities were real. His comfort with the country against her attachment to Manhattan, his lingering mistrust after the affair, his ultimatum by the fountain demanding she marry him right now. None of that proves Carrie secretly craved instability. What it proves is that being chosen doesn't automatically produce readiness. And even inside the future Aiden is building with her, Carrie keeps Big emotionally present. Inviting him to the country house is almost absurdly literal, the unresolved relationship arriving in a town car and walking directly into their weekend. Aiden isn't competing with an ex. He's competing with the question Carrie still hasn't closed. Because Carrie never wanted certainty in the abstract. She wanted it specifically from the man whose uncertainty had become a verdict on her. Perhaps if Big was distant all the time, Carrie could eventually stop hoping. The relationship survives because, ever so often, he gives her exactly enough to believe. Big doesn't need to be deliberately manipulating her for the loop to work. His instinct is simply to retreat whenever intimacy starts making real claims on his life. During his angioplasty, a procedure he insists is routine, even though the possibility of something being wrong with his heart clearly frightens him, he lets Carrie see him scared, stripped of his usual composure. She experiences it as a breakthrough. Then he recovers, and so does the distance. Big's vulnerability doesn't end the cycle, it restarts it. The withdrawal doesn't erase the intimacy. It turns the intimacy into something she has to recover from. And because his confession was rare, it lands even harder. Someone in the story keeps naming what that costs, and it isn't Carrie. Miranda isn't just Carrie's skeptical friend. She functions as the show's internal objection, the one voice that keeps saying out loud what the audience is already starting to suspect. That this relationship keeps demanding more from Carrie than Big is willing to define. Charlotte can preserve the romantic possibility. Samantha can question why romance needs this many rules in the first place. But Miranda names the actual danger. And because Carrie is the one narrating, Miranda's clarity often lands harder on us than Big's ambiguity ever does. That's not an accident. It's the show letting us see the cost while still asking us to want the ending anyway. And that's the real trick. Carrie narrates the show, so Big's distance arrives already framed as a mystery worth solving before we've had a chance to judge it ourselves. He isn't constantly present, and his returns become events partly because the series withholds him from Carrie and from us at the same time. He tends to reappear right as Carrie starts moving on, restoring the question exactly when it was closest to fading. Notice too where each man exists on screen. Big usually appears in spaces Carrie enters temporarily. Restaurants, cars, hotel lobbies, doorways, places he can leave without ever becoming fully domestic. Aiden is attached to spaces that demand permanence. A workshop, an apartment, a country house, a wall being torn down. Big's world is experienced in encounters. Aiden's has to be lived in. Even the name, Mr. Big, keeps him functioning like an idea rather than an ordinary boyfriend for most of 6 seasons. By the time Big finally becomes certain, the question isn't whether he loves Carrie. It's whether his certainty can reverse what all that waiting taught her to believe about herself. He finds her in Paris after her relationship with Alexander has already collapsed on its own, and 6 seasons of delay have prepared a handful of words to land exactly the way they do. The line the show chooses to center isn't simply a declaration of love. It's a declaration of selection. Carrie, you're the one. Then the series finally lets us see his first name on Carrie's phone. John. For the first time, Mr. Big becomes an ordinary, named man at the exact moment the relationship finally gets its answers. Which brings us back to the plaza. Why wasn't it me? Underneath it, was I too much? Did our difficulty mean I mattered, or did it simply mean we didn't work? Big's eventual choice seems to answer all of it. She wasn't too complicated to choose. She was the one, finally, out loud. His certainty heals the specific wound his uncertainty created. That's why the ending feels satisfying. It's also exactly why that satisfaction can't prove the wound was necessary. It doesn't retroactively make every breakup necessary or every hurt romantic. It doesn't make the relationship healthy. What it does is reverse the verdict Carrie had been carrying since that sidewalk. And reversing a verdict is not the same thing as the verdict having been fair to begin with. The same uncertainty that wounded Carrie for years is what made his final certainty feel so valuable. The damage and the payoff were never separate stories. Carrie spent years asking Big to answer a question about her worth. Sex and the City made us wait for that answer too. Maybe that is why Big and Carrie remained so difficult to separate from the era that created them. Their relationship did not only sell the fantasy of finding the right person, it sold the fantasy that the right person could reach backward and correct every moment they made you feel unworthy. But love cannot prove that the waiting was necessary. Being chosen cannot transform uncertainty into devotion after the fact. Sometimes the answer arrives. Sometimes the person finally says the words. And sometimes the relief feels so powerful that we mistake it for evidence that the entire journey was actually leading somewhere. Carrie got the answer she had spent 6 seasons chasing. The more uncomfortable question is why she never needed Big to answer it. Because "you're the one" is a beautiful thing to hear. It just should not take years of feeling like you weren't. If you enjoyed this look back at Sex and the City, subscribe to Millennial Rewind, where we revisit the shows we grew up with and examine what they taught us before we were old enough to question it.